Looks complex, right? It looks really hard.
It does.
Is it really hard?
Yeah, I mean, it was complicated,
It's
and a
super
lot of them
complicated.
was just putting things together that I hadn't had to. It wasn't so much that any given operation was hard, it was just like the combination of everything was definitely a challenge.
What he said.
Do you have a comment, Tara?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how they got that section view.
Like cutting it right here?
No, the bottom.
Yeah.
Right, but you see, okay, so it would be my left. So.
Oh, you mean this hole right here?
No, that whole side with the angle cut there.
Okay. So this is what's called an aligned section. So we haven't talked about that. So they set the cutting plane line. You can see the CC here.
There.
It goes through here,
Okay.
hits the middle, and turns up through that other web.
Oh, I didn't even get that.
And so instead of cutting, because it's cutting straight through, we wouldn't see this rib or anything. So it's cut through here and then turns up through there so we can see that piece. Yeah, so that's called an aligned section. Basically, they take this whole side up here and they just like rotate it down. So they just take this and rotate it down until it's flat. So that way it projects this way.
I knew something was weird with that projection, I just didn't know exactly what. Because, yeah, that rib
Yeah,
was not
'cause-
supposed to be in alignment with that angle piece.
Yeah.
Thank,
You can see
Thank
the
goodness for
cutting
grabbing
plane
12
right here
lines.
goes here C, and then over here. Oops. Mouse. That's the cutting plane line. That's where they're cutting it, and then they're rotating this part of it down to there.
Now that you say that,
thank goodness for drafting 12.
Yeah. And so we're going over that as we go. And so that's it. It's called a revolve section. So I just forgot to explain that first. I meant to go through them as we're, instead of doing a whole thing on just all the sections, I'm trying to do them as we go. Things for different views. All right. So that was that. Any other questions on this, or any other? So
I did.
you guys said it was kind of difficult, but then got a little bit easier.
I ended up with the pipage on the front, on that
This?
one point right there. I went back and practiced it again, and I drew that. When I set it up, I drew it with that directly on the front plane.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you twist that about, I don't know, 90 degrees, so it's flip it around to the back, turn the whole thing around 180 degrees. That's how I drew it, and it was easier that way.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, if you have to flip it different ways, that's fine. Remember how it's oriented in your space doesn't matter. Sometimes things are a little bit easier different ways for you to see. So for this piece right here, I put down two options. One is to sketch a rectangle, revolve it. One was to sketch some planes in a circle. Who made work planes and stuff for this?
Yeah, construction plane.
Who made
or a
construction
plane
planes and then sketched the circle and extruded it? You see?
Yeah.
Yes, no? A few? Who drew a rectangle and revolved it? No one? No one wants to admit it? Did anyone do both? No?
No.
Nope.
So that's also another option here. On this one, if I
I did
create
do it on that one.
a sketch here, and I drew a 3-point rectangle kind of through the part.
Yeah, I did the
And then
same.
I create stuck a point there. I could dimension that 33, that 19, and then I can go in and, what? Not delete those. Guess I'll take those and just,
I split them from the body.
so I could do that. Same thing, make a 3-point rectangle and revolve it. So anytime you have a cylinder at an angle, you can always draw a rectangle of half of it and revolve it. But you have to usually do some cleanup work after it like that. But if I pull up this one, here, let's see which way did I did. I did it with work planes. You know, so I created a work plane there, sketched it there. But I could have also come in here, create a sketch on that plane there.
Oh, I didn't think
And
about
then
it.
done a 3-point rectangle here. So what is it? It's a diameter of 20, so means that that's going to be a radius of 10, and from there to there was 45 degrees, and in the center out to the top of it is 19. So from that distance there, it's 19. And then tell it to revolve. There. Oops. So I can revolve it like that. Either way works.
Which one is preferred?
Doesn't matter. They're both there. They both work. This one we're not in to take off extra stuff. So like on this one I had to do it and then I had to do 2 more extrudes just to clean it up. So in this case, maybe the extrude's better. From this one, it doesn't really matter. They're both the same. If you'd already put in this hole, then definitely doing the planes is better. But if you save this hole for the end, and remember you can always drag stuff around on the timeline. So like if I had done that hole, oh, it's not going to let me drag it. If I'd done it first, I might have been able to drag it afterwards. But that's an easy one to do, so.
It's not gonna get you trapped in that, no.
Yeah, so it really doesn't matter which way you do it, just as long as you do it one way. They're both kind of the same. Maybe the rectangle's a little bit faster.
Right.
So kind of however you so do it both ways, see what works best. What about dropping in that rib, this piece right here? So thin pieces like this are called ribs. They're meant to add support to objects. If you look at the old books and stuff, they don't show it hatched here because this hatching lines, that's where it's cut. But since that doesn't go all the way around, the standards are not to hatch in there. But we can't make the solid programs do that, so we just show it now. So if you're looking at the standards or in the books or anything, you see where it shows the ribs and it shows that it's kind of just got the lines down here and the actual rib itself isn't hatched. That's the old standard, and that's kind of the way it's always been done. But we just don't do that anymore because it's way more work to try and make it look like that now. It used to be because it's easier just to do that. Now it's like way more work. And so that's what that is. So in order to do that, I said to use the rib command. And so
there's
if
a
we go
command
back,
for that?
yep.
Of course there is.
That'd have been a lot easier than trying to fillet it. That's what I did.
That's
Filleted it
what
a
I said,
bunch.
right? I said, create a plane between the center and the side boss, sketch on the plane, draw a line, and use the rib command. I know I didn't give a lot of explanation because I wanted you to see if you could figure it out, but at least knowing what
I'm gonna be
command it
honest,
was.
I completely forgot that you wrote directions until the very end, so
And so
I've been just figuring out piece by piece on my own.
if we go back here, I've got here. So I need to create a plane connecting these two. So how can I do that? Yeah,
I just sketched a line.
sketch the
Tangent
line
plane?
where?
Or just do an
You're
intersect.
gonna make me remember.
I need to have a plane there before I can sketch a line, though, right?
Right.
I could have.
just
You could have
used
drawn a
one of
line
the-
here and then made a plane off that line. Yeah, but one thing
Can
is I
you
can
use
create.
the center of the circles?
Yep.
It's a
Like
So,
the one on the
but
bottom,
there's
the
no
one center?
option to go center to center. But if I make a plane or an axis here, and then I can create a plane through two edges, and then that's one edge, that's another edge, right? So now I have a plane there. Or you can do it the easy way that's not as good and just do it by an angle. What's the benefit of doing it with the axis in between 2 points versus just at an angle? And doing it at an angle is easy, right?
But not as straight.
I used that approach right there and dropped an intersect on the face.
So, right, if I do an angle, that works great, unless I decide to change how many of these there are, right? If I decide, oh, I'm gonna make them I'm gonna make 4 of them in there now. And so now it needs to be at 90 degrees, not 120. If I did just an angle plane, I have to go in and edit that plane, right? If I do it based on the center axis of that thing, now it adjusts automatically.
It's gonna adjust the angle
So this,
for you, right?
so this is a better approach, right?
James, one of your origin doesn't line up.
What?
Your origin.
What if your origin doesn't line up?
Planes of the origin, it doesn't line up with either one of them.
What do you mean? Oh. What if it didn't?
Creating a new plane.
Oh, what if it didn't? Or
No, I'm wondering, does it? Because for some reason I
no,
thought.
I did this one on the line.
Oh, okay.
So my origin is going this way. So I kept this one here, the one that was going to be unique, on the axis.
Okay.
Yeah. If you were just editing, gonna leave this one the same and make these two be different, then you can do it. But then you don't have a plane to mirror across. And so I kept the plane here so I can mirror it.
I did the circular pattern.
What?
I did a circular pattern.
But after these two? Yeah, because I did the pattern first and then I added that in. Because this one doesn't get a rib.
Gotcha.
I'm just looking to see what you're doing differently than I did.
So
I actually put a rib command on that back one too.
So what I did is I created that plane there, but I'm just gonna let you see what I did. I created the sketch here. So we created a sketch on that plane we made, and then we just draw a line between that edge there and over there. So I just converted this edge, and then just drew the line up, and then dimension from there to there. So it's just hitting the side of the cylinder to the side of there. And so if I turn that sketch on, so it's there. Then we just go in to create rib. Just pick the line. We tell it to be 10 millimeters thick, and we want to go both sides of that, but we want to flip.
10 millimeters is too big.
Was it 2? And then
The inner thickness was 1 millimeter.
why won't it work now?
You can flip it 180.
Yeah. Oh. It's 5. There you go. Draft angle needs to be 0, that's why. I don't know why it got switched.
What was wrong with it?
The draft angle was wrong for some reason. So, some reason this draft angle was coming up as 90. But basically if I make that 5, flip my direction. Oh,
That's where it did it.
yeah, there it is. No. What the heck?
The other one had
There you go.
full-
No, there it is. I want to start from the bottom, not from the top.
So the draft angle is where it's starting from.
Yeah. No, the draft angle is how it's supposed to taper, but yeah. So that's the one thing about the rib command. Sometimes you have to play with it to get it to work right, but it does a good job of wrapping around the cylinder. So it wraps around the cylinder nicely, and it wraps around down here nicely. You can see it comes down a little bit, but it touches it nicely. If you were just going to take this and then just draw in some lines, and try and extrude it, what's going to happen? So I tell it mid-symmetric. Look at that. See, it barely touches right there. It doesn't continue around. And same thing up here. It doesn't touch. So I'd have to go in. So we'd have to go in and edit the sketch and make it extend into it. Then those edges get kind of weird.
It was a pain to do it the other way.
Yep. So rib is the kind of the best way to do it, even though it is a pain. If you've got something a rib going into the side of a cylinder like that. Yeah. Yeah, you have to extend the sketch to be inside of it, but then it's going to have like a flat across the top. It's not going to hit it nice and smooth. And so it's kind of the best to kind of just play with the rib until it comes out right. Does that make sense? And then I just mirrored the rib across the other side.
How did you do the inside of the rib?
Inside of the rib, what do you mean?
Like, if you look at the drawing, it's got that indentation in it. Like, it's... See how that's not a flat
nope,
surface
that's just,
on that rib?
there's right here.
Yeah.
There's no indentation, that's the fillets. So this double line right here, that top, this inside line is the top edge, and the bottom line is the fillet. And that's why we're not supposed to show fillet, the tangent edges, because it gets confusing. So it's not really an inset piece, it's just, this is the flat piece going up, this is the fillet going out on the bottom. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
remember I said before, I don't like to show the tangent edges in the views on the drawing, because you get this, you start to think, oh, is that an edge? But if this was foreshortened, or if it made it a dashed line or whatever, make it different, then you say, oh, that's the tangent edge. But making it a solid dark line, you get confused on what's what. And so I don't like to do that. So that's why I said just don't show it. Because if we go back to the end, basically here, it was showing that edge and that edge.
So I did it completely different. I made the inside depth 1 millimeter because that's what I thought the drawing was showing me.
Yeah, so,
Like-
no, it's just a flat piece there.
Okay.
So, any other question on this? So that rib is actually the hardest part about it, other than just understanding what's going on in the drawing, right? So that's part of it, just looking at the drawing, figuring out what's what on the drawing, okay?
Like, the majority of my time spent on that thing was before I even did anything, figuring out how I was going to do it ahead of time.
Good.
And then trying to do it and it not working, and I'm like, oh, let's go back. That didn't work. How can I change what I was doing to make it work?
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, and so, but each time you learn what worked,
Yeah.
what didn't work.
Yeah, like for the fillets, I looked at it and I was like, okay, I know it goes from this edge all the way up here, and I've got diameters, and it tells me all this sort of stuff, so I can do this.
Mhm.
But how do I do that?
Yeah, and so you guys are kind of still in that phase of trying to figure out what works best and how to do things, and so that's good. That's what I want you guys to do, is look at it, come up with your best plan, and then try it, and see what works, what doesn't work, and then come up with a new plan and attack it. Imagine how it'd be if you had no plan and you just started going at it and it's all, well, all over the place. Caliwampus, that's the one I was looking for.
You just had to do it twice. Once with Revolve, and then once with separate planes, like offset planes and stuff like that.
And so I meant that just for this
no,
piece.
I know, and I found it so much easier to use offset planes than to use Revolve.
For that piece, yeah.
For that piece there, it was just significantly easier.
Yeah, see, different ways. So we were just talking about that about just a few minutes before you walked in, and for him, doing that the construction plans and sketching and extruding it was easier. And like I said, for me, they're kind of iffy, but maybe the Revolve is a little bit easier. And so that's why I try different ways, because there are some things where it doesn't matter which way you do it. They're both equally good. So in that case, yeah, do what's best for you, what you do best. As long as you follow all the kind of guidelines, that it's constrained correctly, it's dimensioned correctly, it adapts, whatever. As long as that's correct, then it's okay. You're doing features instead of just sketches. Yeah, it doesn't really matter which way, as long as you're kind of following the guidelines. Yeah.
So I kept running into the issue to where I would use sacrificial construction lines, and it would say that my sketch is unconstrained. So
Yeah.
I kept like, is there a better way other than just locking like construction lines in place?
So if you have a construction line that's just you know it's just a construction line, and you draw it just so you can dimension across or something, right? So I think, actually here I didn't do that because I just drew circles. Let's see, do I have anything?
So it shows on sketch 8 as unconstrained.
There, all right, and that's because oh look, haha, caught me. Because I drew a rectangle and I trimmed parts of it, apparently. But yeah, so if you've got you're doing a center line or something, that you want to be able to make it a center line so you can you can dimension across or whatever.
Yeah.
This end is going to be there, and so what I just do is, I mean, you could lock it, but I just, it's easier for me just to give it a number.
I mean,
Any number.
I did that too.
Any number, doesn't matter. But yeah, you could. That's kind of the one time when you could just lock that point, and now it's done. But I don't like to use the lock command, so I just don't do it. I'll just dimension it to be whatever, or I'll add it. I'll just make it. I'll just throw a constraint on it somehow. So now it's locked to that point. It doesn't matter. But now it's fully constrained.
Yeah.
So I'll just do that. Make it equal to something else, or add a dimension on, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just make it so that endpoint turns black instead of being white. Yeah. Any other questions on this one? So, no? All good? All right.